Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned into.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to have you with us today. You're watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. I'm your host, executive producer, broadcast engineer, and director. And this show is all about learning how to be better personally and professionally. I have handpicked with these hands a team of experts from around the world who come and join our stage 6 times a week, presenting their area of expertise. Who do we have with us today, you ask? It is Mr. red.olaughlin. Hello, Red.
Howdy.
It's good to see you again.
It's always great to be seen.
For those of you who don't know, Red and I have worked together for my first book, which actually became a #1 bestseller. What was it, less than 2 weeks, Red?
Less than a week.
There it is. And if it weren't for this man, that would not have happened. And he's currently working with me on my second and third book. So he is a man who has knowledge in many areas. He is an author. He's a publisher. He's a distinguished Toastmaster. And he's just an all-around great guy. How about that?
Thank you so very much. Summed it up nicely.
Red, I would love if you would share, before we begin with your presentation, what do you think the value is to you as a presenter to come on and share your knowledge? Because it takes work, right? You have to put together a presentation, rehearse, practice. So why do you do it, Red?
Well, I write a blog every day. I haven't missed a day now in 550 days or something, maybe more than that. And that takes me about 90 minutes a day to get to select a topic, figure out what I want to talk about, and then start writing, and then get it edited and everything done, and then actually get it out. And I know, just like you're doing your shows, there are so many things that have to be done to make one show happen. And you have, nearly 20 going on a week, maybe more, I have no idea. But the thing is, anytime I'm speaking to a group of people, one of my personal things that I enjoy doing is adding value to people's life. There's just so many things we don't know. My business is publishing books most of the time for new authors. But my real passion, what I have found since my wife's breast cancer several years ago, was that I am using a skill that I had, back in the 60s. My first love was chemistry. Long before I met my wife, I just fell in love with it. Well, I graduated with that degree, but I got an invitation to Vietnam. And it wasn't until decades later that I now have the opportunity to research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level. And I look for cause and effect relationships. You treat a cause, you fix a problem. You treat a symptom, you always fix a problem. So if people don't know there's a cause and they're just sitting there treating that symptom all the time, then that is something that I feel like I might be able to break the log jam and say, hey doctor, I heard about this. What do you think? What can we do? And really, I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the medical field. I'm not in the pharmaceutical field. Never have been. I get 5 different degrees. And what I do is I like to share that information so that if you hear something today and you say, okay, I need to talk to my doctor about that. That, to me, I think is the breakthrough, because a lot of times we're talking to healthy people, and prevention is something we don't always see. But some people have issues. And if you have that issue, maybe that becomes a good point to say, take a note, let's talk to my doctor about it, find out what I can do. And that's really the crux of what I enjoy in my speaking. I speak a couple, 3 times a month in public gatherings like this. I publish all the time with my blogs and my articles. And it's just one of those things I really enjoy. I get 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week. I'm retired, and I love doing this. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from, Dr. Jacalyn.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because you do bring a lot of value to our audience, and you are an excellent presenter, which is why you are distinguished Toastmaster. Yay! So, okay, so for those who are joining us for the first time, what happens here is that Red will present his lesson, and then he and I will have a conversation about what I got out of it and what he thinks about what I got out of it. And we'll just have a great discussion. And then we'll take a commercial break. And we don't have two presenters today, so our show should be relatively short. We should be here and gone within half an hour. So, Red, before I spotlight you, would you please share with us the best way to get in touch with you, just so people know before and after your presentation?
I'm a little bit old-fashioned, just the regular telephone. Just call me. My number's down there on the banner. That's the easiest way to get to me. If I'm not there, I say I'm usually tied up with something. Leave a message. I will get back to you. The next easiest way to get in touch with me is by email. And there's at least one email down there. Those are the two primary ones. Again, a bit old-fashioned. Sometimes somebody texts me, and I turn my buzzer off on my phone because it's just going beep, 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 with all sorts of stuff coming in. And I said, I don't need the distraction. So I may not even check my text until later on, much later than I would a telephone call. So to me, basic telephone, email, those are things I look at all the time. All the rest of everything, it's there. I may catch it, but I may not catch it in a timely manner to respond as quickly as somebody would like.
Good to know. So for those of you on the radio, the number to call to reach Red is area code 281-687-1188. And his email address is red.olaughlin, OLAUGHLIN @gmail.com, correct?
Correct.
That's not even on there, and I remembered it. Okay. Very good. Very good. Do you want the timer, Red, or you don't need it?
Well, since it's only one today, I have it down pretty much to about 15 minutes. I think I can keep it in about that realm. I thought about going in two different directions, but I think I'll stick with my original one that I've kind of planned through a couple, 3 times already. And depending on how things go, I'm gonna rely on you when something, hey, I need to know more about this when we get to the discussion phase. We might be able to pick up that topic just a little bit. Yeah, so I'm going to be going at this level, dip down a little bit, go back up again, dip down, but I try to keep everything where it's easy to understand. Maybe using some technical terms periodically, but it's not something that's insurmountable for a radio or TV audience to understand.
Fantastic. And I just want to let our audience know that they can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, to watch all of our programming. So if you're over there right now, YouTube, subscribe. We would love that. All right, Red, I am going to go backstage. I'll be listening to your presentation. Have a good one. I'll see you shortly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm going to take a plug right here. Several years ago, I wrote a book called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging. It says how to live to 100 years of age with the body of a healthy 50-year-old and the mind of a 25-year-old. Within this book is the background material, a lot more than I'm going to be talking about today. I have a certain section in there strictly on heart health. I have another one in there on brain health. It talks about the 2 primary causes of aging, most of which people have no idea in the world. They may be doing 5 things right and 11 things wrong. They just don't know. But regardless, that's a topic for another day. But today, my primary topic is going to be on heart health. This is educational. This is not meant to be a dissertation from a doctor or anything like that. This is educational. It's a lot of background material, something that you can take to your doctor and say, hey, what about this? So what things in general do we do that increase the risk of our heart health? Well, one of the things that we can do to reduce the risk is to get regular blood tests that actually test the heart itself. I'll be talking about those. Grains, even though there's some people that think we have to have them, kind of lessen, remove, lower. Same thing with fructose, corn syrup, Any kind of sugar, just kind of lower them down a lot. Smoking, stop. Exercise daily. These are things that we hear all the time, but maybe one of the things that you don't hear is periodontal disease. When you go into your dentist at least once a year, get a cleaning, or twice a year, that's one of those things, because that teeth has a direct, right straight to the heart. Obviously, a no-brainer is get your blood pressure tested. If you don't have a blood pressure instrument at the house, invest in one. They're not that expensive. And then any kind of medicine that you're on, there are generally some kind of natural alternatives that you can get. So if you're on a particular drug for something, talk to your doctor about how can you get off that particular one. If it's a high blood pressure medicine, maybe it's more exercise, maybe it's losing weight. There are things that doctors will allow you to do, but you have to give them a good option to do it. Now, what actually causes heart disease? Well, as we get older, things kind of get out of balance. And in my book, I talk about one of those things is a human growth hormone. So as that human growth hormone starts to dip as we get older, things kind of go awry. There are ways to control human growth hormone, but that's not our lecture for today. But those things that actually start to build up in our body, arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis, calcification, plaques in our heart valves and arteries, hypertension, high blood pressure, angina, heart attack, heart failure. Those are all things that are typically the heart diseases. But when you get down to it, what causes it? Well, it's not a single thing. In most cases, it's a number of things. So let's say it's 5 things. And if you can get rid of 3 of them, and now you're only faced with 2 that have a risk impact, you've made a major accomplishment. And today, if we can't do anything else, it's just from an education perspective, what can we do to lower the risk or counter the risk of heart disease? Well, there are a lot of them. There's cholesterol. It's not cholesterol, it's the oxidized cholesterol. High blood pressure, insulin and glucose, too high levels. That's your entry level for diabetes. Triglycerides, major issue. We get it measured all the time, but most of the time we have no idea how to treat it. There's a protein called C-reactive protein. Again, if it gets too high, it's an issue. Homocysteine, same thing. And then we got a couple of vitamins that are really we need to have, but most of us are deficient in. And there's glycation end products. There's a whole bunch of other ones, at least I'm going to say another 8 or 9 or 10. I'm not going to talk about those because they get a little bit complex, but I want to be able to get to the meat of doing something that you can make a change. But please don't just change something because you can change if you're already on prescription meds or being treated by a doctor. You don't want to make lifestyle changes and not include your physician as part of the decision-making process. Let's talk about cholesterol for a minute. I think it's gotten a bad rap for a long time. It's not cholesterol that's an issue. It's the oxidized cholesterol. That's the problem. Our livers make cholesterol. Our body makes it every single day. If we're not getting enough from the body, we're getting it from the diet. So it's kind of a balancing. You make a lot, you eat a lot, well, the body makes less. If you're not eating much, then the body makes more. But we need it for healthy cell membranes. We need it to build hormones. Estrogen and cortisol and testosterone and progesterone and others need cholesterol in order to create those hormones in the body. It's also the natural precursor to vitamin D, to making that vitamin in our skin. But most people don't tell you this, but cholesterol is more important for the brain than it is for any other part of your body. About 25% of the cholesterol we have goes straight to the brain. Now, some people on high cholesterol medicine, statin drugs, they don't realize this, but the body, the actual medicine, statin drug, shuts down the body's production of CoQ10. Now, we have pills that we can take to counter that, and most doctors will never tell their person to take a CoQ10. I have a good friend of mine, he was on a statin drug. I gave him a couple of articles on how the body reacts to that particular statin drug by shutting down CoQ10. Well, he took it to his doctor, and his doctor said, okay, fine, take 100 milligrams. But again, doctors are not versed on nutrition. But CoQ10 is something that our bodies need. We usually get it as a supplement. If you buy it, and you usually see it as CoQ10, you may see the main ingredient on the back label, ubiquinone. However, the body actually converts that ubiquinone to ubiquinol. So if you pick up two containers, and one is $30 and one is $10, the one that's $30 is probably the ubiquinol, because what happens is the ubiquinone gets into the body, but you only get, 5, 8, maybe 10, 12, 15% maximum bioavailability of the body. Most of it's wasted. So you spend $10 for something, you're only getting 10%. You spend a little bit more, now all of a sudden you're getting 30, 40% of something the body doesn't have to convert, it uses immediately. And so sometimes it's worth knowing exactly what you're getting. Cholesterol, we hear about being bad, but what happens is it's not cholesterol, it's oxidized cholesterol. And when the oxidation occurs, yes, that is a bad issue. One source of that is the free radicals that happen when you oxidize vegetable oils. Anytime you're cooking high temperature, you're ending up with more free radicals in there. Smoking is a free radical generator. Trans fats is another one. The biggest one by far is fried foods. If you're going to, French fries and fried chicken and this and that almost every day, stop, cut back every other day, every third day. But once that oxidized cholesterol gets rolling through the bloodstream, it's eventually going to adhere to some part of the lining of the artery. This was a big deal to me, last Christmas. I went into the doctor, turned out that my left anterior descending artery was blocked. I had no idea. I started getting these little pinprick feelings in my pectoral muscles. I didn't associate that with angina because it didn't equate to anything I read about it. So anyway, I went in to see my doctor. He sent me over to my cardiologist. I'd had some cardiology tests about 3 years, 4 years earlier, everything 100%. They put me through the same paces again. Now all of a sudden they found one little area that it doesn't look right. So they actually did a heart catheterization. Turns out I had a blocked artery, 100%. But that particular artery is known as the widowmaker, because when it is blocked, that's it. About 90% of the people die. It's just, and 50% of the people never know they have a heart problem until they actually find out that they're dead. Well, they're not dead, but they survive a heart attack. What happened in my case is my body actually grew 2 new veins across the heart, one down behind the heart and up to the lower end of the heart, and another one across the front and down. And it's called angiogenesis. So I actually grew 2, DIY bypass, if you want to look at it that way. But that was part of me taking regular care of my health years ago as a runner, weightlifter, and a bunch of other things that I was doing. But those are things that if you can avoid the oxidized cholesterol, then you're going to minimize the amount of plaque that's formed in your heart valves and arteries. Now, how do you minimize oxidation? Smoking is a big one. Eliminate trans fats. Minimize, not saying eliminate, minimize fried foods. Fruits and vegetables are always good. Now, vitamin E is an echo. There's 8 different chemicals that make up vitamin E, 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. You need each one of them. Now, you can find them in pill form. There's no single food that has all 8 of them in there, but most of the time in a mixed multivitamin or something, you end up with one that's synthetic, it's worthless. But anyway, ubiquinol, talked about that one earlier, and one of my favorite, green tea. There's so many benefits of green tea, it's hard not to affect some part of the body, especially the brain. You'd be amazed what green tea can do for the nerve endings on the brain. Let's move on to the next topic, number 2. Hypertension. Hypertension, high blood pressure. They tell us 120 over 80. The new guidelines are 115 over 76. Not much of a change. But if you're not measuring your blood pressure on a regular basis, it's something you really seriously should consider, because it is something that can save your life. What are causes of high blood pressure? There are almost too many. I was like, what's the cause of a headache? There's some things that are just really difficult to say this caused that. But one obvious one is overweight, lack of exercise. Some medicines increase your blood pressure, plaque in heart valves and arteries, kidney fluid imbalance, and there are others. But weight and exercise are 2 that can be dealt with, controlled. Medicines, know if your medicine increases your heart rate, because I have a friend of mine, his wife's in the hospital right now. We visit just about every day. He's suffering from low blood pressure, and that's really wrecking his life. He's finally just about gotten over it, but he hasn't been able to drive in a month. He has to hold onto the walls as he's walking. But that was caused by medicine interacting with another medicine, and one Anyway, doesn't matter. If you don't know what you're taking and what the side effects are, you're doing yourself a disservice. But too many things can happen when you have high blood pressure. But some of the things that help counter high blood pressure are just some of the normal nutrients that we get on the foods we eat: magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D3, fish oil. I talked about CoQ10 a while ago, grapeseed extract, garlic, chromium, calcium, potassium, your electrolytes. Calcium, far better to get it from the food than it is from a pill. Most of the time, the pills have calcium carbonate, which is very difficult for the body to absorb. If you're going to buy calcium, buy it as a citrate. You're actually going to get a whole lot more into the body. You don't have to worry about having to eat a meal with your calcium in order to get that carbonate actually into convertible form. Let's go to number 3, triglycerides. You get triglycerides at about the same time of your blood pressure. Okay, you get your cholesterol is this, your triglycerides are this, and many people confuse triglycerides with cholesterol. And many doctors will actually give you a dietary change to lower cholesterol, but when they give you that change, it actually increases triglycerides, which is a more higher impact of heart risk than cholesterol. You look at people with normal cholesterol, half of them will die of a heart attack, but they have normal cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a real good measure of heart health, but for whatever reason, for the last several decades, that's what it is. 40 years ago, if you had 400 cholesterol, nobody cared. It's more about the ratio of your HDL and LDL than it is about the actual limits. So if somebody says, oh, you're 140 or you're 240 or you're 340, what is the ratio? That is the key, not the number, but the key. But triglyceride is different from cholesterol, and elevated triglycerides are a problem. But if your doctor says, I'm going to put you on a low-fat diet, and I want you to eat complex carbohydrates, I want you to have a lot of fiber, well, that may be good for lowering cholesterol, but it's absolute destruction for your triglycerides because they're just going to go on up. There's a real complex formula between carbohydrates, glucose, insulin, cholesterol, triglycerides. I mean, they're all in there in a balance, and you start getting one out of balance, and all of a sudden, you don't want to be out of balance. So balancing the equation doesn't happen with a single step. But there are several things you can do to deal with the issue of triglycerides. Soluble fibers is a good one. Fish oil is one. Niacin, green tea, again, I mentioned that one. But for some people who are dieting and want to really negate the effect of carbohydrates, there's 2 things you can do. One's called an alpha glucosidase inhibitor. Usually it's called maitake mushroom. They're very good about blocking some of that carbohydrate. Alpha amylase inhibitors is another one. White kidney bean extract is found in pill form. But those 2 are really good sources to block a lot of the carbohydrates. You hear about carbohydrate absorption, that's your soluble fibers, but blocking carbohydrates, that's your alpha amylase inhibitor. But those are things that you might want to talk about. But again, don't just start on because you can, because they're right there available in the store. Talk to your doctor first, because there may be something in your meds that would not be favorable for. Okay, number 4. I mentioned earlier that cholesterol is not a very good measurement for heart disease, heart failure. Homocysteine is. It used to be the gold standard. Nowadays, the gold standard is the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids. But homocysteine level test is a simple blood test, doesn't cost very much. You can go down to a local lab, have it done. But generally, when your B vitamins, your folic acid, B12, B6 get out of whack, you're deficient in them, homocysteine starts to rise a little bit. And it's not the rise, it's keeping it up there at that level for a high time. It increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, depression, Alzheimer's. You want to control that homocysteine. And it's so easy to measure, but doctors don't measure it as a normal course. I get that measured every single time in my annual physical. That is one of the ones that I demand my doctor I want this one. I don't care if I have to pay for it myself. I've never had to, but I tell them I want it. And nowadays, I don't even have to tell them. It's just automatically on my chart to get. But homocysteine, and oxidized cholesterol really wreak havoc with the interior parts of our blood vessels, and that's where the plaque and everything starts to form. Homocysteine also affects our brains. You end up with a high level, we end up brain shrinkage. Not something we want, but something that will affect you down the road. But what can we do to help counter, reduce homocysteine? Zinc is a good one, vitamin C, obviously folic acid, B12 and B6, trimethylglycine. Now, B12 is it's a cobalamin. When you look at your bottle of pills, it'll say vitamin B12. You have to look and see what kind of cobalamin it is. If you're actually taking it, it goes into the stomach, it's not B12. Yes, it's labeled as B12. It's called cyanocobalamin. Cobalamins will not survive stomach acid. You actually have to take it under the tongue. It's called methylcobalamin. And if it says take under your tongue, then you've got the right one. But B12, a real deficiency in it for a long period of time mimics Alzheimer's. That's one of the reasons the first thing a doctor will give you is a B12 shot to see if that is an issue or not. But B12 is one that it's super controllable. All your vitamins. I'm a big advocate for natural balance in everything we have. So if you have balanced nutrition, you're probably not going to have any health issues because everything's in balance. Okay, I'm going to mention a couple other ones here that I think are three that are very controllable. But if you don't know about them, it's kind of hard to say. One's called CRP, C-reactive protein. If you're healthy, you don't have any. I get the C-reactive protein test every single year at my annual physical. Most of the time, mine's 0. I think the last time I saw a reading was 0.25. You want it as close to 0 as possible. When you start having a problem, C-reactive protein goes up. So if you have an infection, an illness, inflammation, injury, C-reactive goes up. Now, a C-reactive protein test, it's a blood test, will not tell you where the inflammation is in your body. It just says, hey, your body's got a lot of inflammation. So if it's high, your doctor can say, okay, now maybe we need to start checking things. Maybe it's a heart, maybe it's a brain, maybe it's a kidneys, maybe it's lungs. It can be a number of different parts in the body, but it's an indicator that something is wrong somewhere else, but it's an early indicator. You actually have the ability to do something proactively. So C-reactive protein is a really good one, but if you keep C-reactive protein at a high level for a long time, stroke, heart disease, and a lot of other diseases, because it's not something our bodies need or want. Anyways, what can you do to stop CRP? Well, obviously balanced nutrition. Smoking, stop. Wheats and grains. In other words, try to keep your sugars under control. Fried foods, minimize. Soluble fiber. You're kind of hearing the same thing over and over again. So soluble fiber is fixing this and this and this and this. Well, maybe I would consider soluble fiber daily. Curcumin. Now, curcumin is one of those ones. It's turmeric. It's a yellow powder you see in a lot of Indian curry. However, curcumin it's one of the best antioxidants out there. There's probably maybe one that I can think of that I think is better without going into a lot of detail. But at the cellular level, curcumin is number 1 or number 2. It's kind of hard to figure out which. But curcumin does not go into the bloodstream very easily. You really need black pepper extract, piperine. So if you're looking at your bottle and it says piperine on the back, that's good. Get that one. If it doesn't say that, put it back, because curcumin will, in fact, make a major difference in your health. Coenzyme Q10, ubiquinol, we talked about that, vitamin D3, and green tea. I just mentioned D3 a minute ago. I wrote a blog yesterday on vitamin D3 and reduction in colon cancer. Vitamin D3 is something we need, but most of us, let me say most of us, almost half of us are deficient. But the boundary for D3 changes. Years ago, it was down here. Now it's up here. And if you don't know what your D3 is, how can you even do anything? That's one of the tests that I add every year to my annual physical. My last vitamin D3 level is 108 nanomoles per liter. 108 is, like, doctors go crazy. Mine doesn't. But you need at least 50 to be at the minimum level. The old standard was down around 20, and so long as doctors, they get 20 or they get 12, they're fine. But they're not fine. There's just too many issues. So if you have low levels of vitamin D3, you're introducing risks to the body. Multiple sclerosis. The sunshine vitamin D3, there seems to be almost a direct link. If you're living north of the 37th parallel, you're seeing over 100, almost 150 cases per 100,000 people. You bump up into Canada, it goes up almost to 300. You get back down here in the lower labs, like I'm here in Texas, you're maybe seeing 50, 60 or so. It's a direct relationship. If you're not getting enough sunshine, you're not taking enough supplemental vitamin D3, other diseases can creep in the door. So it's one of those ones that's super critical, and you have control over it. One of my favorite is vitamin K2. Vitamin K1 and K2 are two of the what do you call it, blood clotting vitamins. K1 comes from your plants. K2 comes from primarily fermented soybeans, organ meats, hard cheeses and stuff. K1 will actually be converted in the body into K2, but not enough. But there's two parts to K2 that are super critical. There are two monoquinones. One is number 4 and the other one's number 7. Well, number 4, I believe, is the fast acting, and that's the one that you need a lot of. And the 7 is kind of like good for 24 hours. But when you're looking at what vitamin K can do to you, it's real critical in heart health, and more so than anything else. Let's say that you want good, strong bones, and the companies say, drink more milk and get strong bones. Well, that's not the way the things work chemically. You get the calcium into your stomach. If you don't have enough magnesium in your body, the absorbability of that calcium doesn't happen. The calcium ends up in the toilet. So let's assume that you have enough magnesium. Now all of a sudden it leaves the stomach, goes through the duodenum. If you have enough vitamin D3, all of a sudden now that calcium is pulled into your bloodstream. If not, it ends up in the toilet. Now you have calcium in your bloodstream. There's only two places it can go: your heart valves and arteries, or your bones. If you have enough vitamin K2, it's going to go straight to your bones. If you don't have enough vitamin K2, it's going to go straight to your heart valves and arteries. Now, if you have enough vitamin K2, you have good, strong bones, but you have to maintain it, because what happens on a bone is that if you're not getting enough vitamin K2, calcium, and all the rest of that stuff, your body's going to reach in there and grab the calcium from your bones in order to keep your blood pH at the normal levels. Now, all of a sudden, year after year after year, now your bones get a little weaker, osteopenia, osteoporosis, brittle bone. Those are things that happen because of vitamin K2. But again, it's not something we hear about all the time, but it's one of those ones that you have control over. So those are the things that I think are really critical, and you get a chance to talk to your doctor about any of them, or obviously you can always buy my book. But it's available on Amazon, it's available on my website. And I really encourage people, if you have a question about something, talk to your doctor. If it involves nutrition, get something from Dr. Google, take it in and say, hey, this is what it says. Tell me, is it right or wrong? What can I do? But if you're on prescription meds, do not make changes to your lifestyle without talking to your doctor. And now, Dr. Jacalyn, I'm turning the show back over to you, doctor.
Excellent. You really know what you're talking about, Red. It's very impressive. I have pages of notes, and so with the time that we have left, I'm going to just ask a few. So one thing that you mentioned, because this is also of interest to me, we can go to our local store and we can pick up a multivitamin, right? We can get, yes. And there's all different ones, and you read 100% of this or that. How do you know if you should do that, or you should buy single bottles with different vitamins in each one?
Okay, I've mentioned before on your shows about Dr. Terry Walls and her protocol. It provides over 30 nutrients the body needs on a daily basis. If you're getting all the nutrients you need daily from your foods, there's no reason to go out and buy anything from a pill bottle. Now, I buy two things from pills: vitamin E, but I make sure it says mixed tocopherols and mixed tocotrienols. I want all 8 of the vitamin E components. If you have this much, literally almost nothing of, I believe it's alpha tocotrienol, and you have a stroke, the same thing that happened in my heart where I had angiogenesis, grow some new veins, almost instantly the heart will grow a vein around a blocked artery, and you end up with almost no repercussions, no side effects from a stroke. It's one of those magic things. The veins are there, but they're not activated. But that little bit of that vitamin E part will activate that particular part of the brain, so that when a blockage occurs, it just is an automatic detour. So if you're getting enough of the things from the food you're eating, you're getting them naturally. You may take a vitamin C. Well, there may be 40 other things as part of orange juice or half a dozen other things, spinach, that have vitamin C in it that you really need are cofactors to make it operate better. But if you're just buying something in it like vitamin C, well, if you manufacture it, half of it's going to be a right hand, half of it's going to be a left hand molecule. They are mirror images of each other. One is good, one is bad. So automatically you're taking something that is not the best you can get. Just because it says magnesium on there, you may be getting an oxide or a carbonate, something that doesn't get into the body easily. So the best advice I have is just get it from the food you eat. If you know you're not getting something because you don't like organ meats, you can't eat cheese, I buy my vitamin K2, and that's what I do. But I do 6 different teas every day. Green tea is one of them because of the epigallocattic and gallate, EGC, GNT. That just does so many good things to the body. But that's why I say balanced nutrition, you really don't have to worry about the pills. And where do I buy my pills from? A company called Life Extension, or lef.org. And that's where I buy my stuff. If I want something, I generally go there, and that's where I get my vitamin E and stuff like that.
Thank you for that. You mentioned something about B12 and mimicking Alzheimer's. Can you elaborate on that, please?
If your body is deficient in B12, one of the side effects of B12 deficiency is dementia. And all of a sudden you're getting, short-term memory loss, things that, is my mom, my dad getting Alzheimer's? Well, it may be a simple matter of increasing B12, but it has to be the right kind, methylcobalamin. The body converts it to something else, hydroxycobalamin. But methylcobalamin is easily found. Just put it under your tongue, it dissolves, sometimes literally in 5 seconds, another time in 5 minutes, depending on what kind of compound it's using. But B12 is super critical. There are a lot of things in the brain. What's the one we use for my brother-in-law? Phosphatidylserine. Our body has 4 phospholipids. Phosphatidylserine is one of them. As we get older, we make less, but you can buy it in pill form. In that particular case, he was a Catholic priest. He couldn't perform his duties. They retired him early. He couldn't even tell you what year it was, had no concept. We put him on that. 2 months later, he could tell you what was on TV last night, what he had for breakfast, what's on TV tonight. It's like a totally different person. And that's just because of one minor change, bringing that nutrient level back up to where it's supposed to be. Now, that, you look at Alzheimer's, there's several, 2 or 3 different causes, primarily the beta amyloid protein, the tau protein. There are issues there. And you fix one doesn't necessarily mean the other one's going to come up and take over down the road. But there are things you can do to track and touch each one of those so you can inhibit the tau protein a little bit, inhibit the beta amyloid. In our case, we want to inhibit homocysteine. We want to lower blood pressure. And the things that we're talking about here, B12 is just one of those ones that we need to keep in that normal range. But you also need B6, you need folic acid, and you also need trimethylglycine, because those are the things that really keep that heart health super healthy.
So if a person, I'm just asking in general, if a person doesn't eat a healthy, balanced diet, then would you recommend, obviously they check with their doctor, but would you recommend supplements in terms of buying each individually or getting them as a multivitamin?
You have to look at what is actually on there. In other words, if I'm getting magnesium and the label says magnesium oxide, but I can come over here and get a magnesium something else, a chelated magnesium. It may be wiser to buy that particular one as an individual, but now all of a sudden you're taking 12 or 15 pills per day. Some may need to be taken with food, some may be taken on an empty stomach. There's issues with each one, so you're trading off. What does it mean? If you can eat fruits and vegetables and a high quality protein on a daily basis, you generally don't need a whole lot of pills. If you're having a lot of pasta and rice and bread and Coca-Cola and whatever it is with high sugar levels, you're wasting a lot of calories on things that are not nutrient dense for you.
Good direction. I love it. As I mentioned, I have pages of notes here that I'm going to talk to you about personally afterwards. So thank you for that, Red. We actually are at the end of the show, which was a fantastic lesson. It's something that applies to everyone. So thank you for picking a topic that is really meaningful.
I appreciate the opportunity to to come on your show and see your smiling face and be able to provide some information, educate. I mean, it starts with awareness, then education, then action. And I'm at that awareness level right now. Somebody caught something today that let me learn a little bit more. Well, there's the education level, and they go to their doctors. What about this? Okay, that's the action. And that's the part that we need to do. And so I'm here for awareness.
You're doing a great job, my friend. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much, Dr. Jacalyn.
And once again, if you can just give out your phone number and your email address for people to reach out to you.
Phone number is 281-687-1188. 281-687-1188. And my email address is red, just like the color, red, olaughlin @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Red. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn.
I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. In case you missed any of that, that is really important information for us to have long and healthy lives. So please do reach out to Red, purchase his books, go to his website. I'm going to stream his banner again. And if you want to share this with somebody, because again, this is important, please do go to our YouTube channel, which is all the way down here, USA Global TV, and you can share the link with other people. Get the word out that you have the power to take control of your health. And regardless of what age you are, you can start now and make a change. I know for me, I have high blood pressure, ulcerative colitis, eczema, and psoriasis. And during the pandemic, as shocking as it might seem, I changed my diet. What did I do? I had already given up caffeine. It's 2.5 years without any caffeine. I gave up sugar because I went back on sugar. Boo-hoo, oh, it's depressing. Let's have sugar. It's so bad for you. Fried foods I don't eat. Once in a while I have red meat, which is tacos. I'm sorry, but I'm a sucker for tacos. But I have tried to eat more vegetables and more fruits. And the bottom line is I don't have high blood pressure, and all 3 of my things are in remission. So why is that? I haven't been to see a doctor. It's because I changed my diet, and it's also thanks to God. So anyway, thank you again for being here, and thank you to Red for a brilliant presentation. Coming up in 15 minutes, we have In the Name of Love. So I'd love for you to join us for that. Our co-host Kimmy Seltzer is on holiday, so it'll just be me and our guest Caroline Heward. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.